All right, welcome back to another episode of Run Mountain Peaks. Today we are talking about the Ascutney Vertical Backyard Insanity, which took place last weekend. Connor Brown, the first finisher, billed the assist on a 200-mile, 100,000 feet of climbing and descent jaunt that they went on. 90 straight hours of running up and down Mount Ascutney at the inaugural race. Took the world by storm, so we got a lot to talk about, a lot of thoughts on that event, and I don't think anyone was expecting that to happen at this event, so we have a lot to touch on. We'll go through it all. Next, we're going to do a JFK recap. We'll do that quick. One of the big road race ultra marathons, but some fast times again this year, so we'll do a quick recap on that. We're going to discuss some training topics today. There's a few, so I've been taking this ultra running coach certification course, and there's a few things that I want to touch on, some good topics that I think are good to hammer home. So we'll just touch on a few training topics today, and then Thanksgiving weekend. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. I got a hot take. I think Thanksgiving food is mid. I think it's average. I got some takes on Thanksgiving food, so we'll do that. And then we're going to haven't talked about this in a few weeks, but we'll do a deer season wrap-up update. Probably the last time this fall we'll talk about it, but we'll do a quick update on that. And that's what we got today for the podcast. This morning I went on Mount Moosilauke. It was cold. It was windy, but the trails were pretty good conditions. Actually, yeah, at the end of this podcast, too, I'm going to do a Mount Moosilauke trail condition trip report. So if you want live trail conditions in the White Mountains, we'll throw that in at the end. So that's what we got today. And yeah, when I signed the lease for the studio, I didn't know it didn't have heat. No heating system back here. Yeah, no, I don't know what we're gonna do this winter. I think we're just gonna have to keep ripping the podcast in the truck bed and just keep layering up this winter. But it's pretty cold today. It's not too cold, but I got a bunch of layers on. If you're watching the podcast on YouTube, go check out the YouTube. We need subs. Okay. Mount Ascutney Vertical Backyard Ultra. I'm sure people have been seeing this on social media. It was fun to track. It was a long 4 days of tracking, but I'll do a quick, what is this event? This was the inaugural event, I believe, for this whole, so it was put on by Northeast Trail Adventures, Justin Chapman and Eli Barakian. It sounds like they're starting up a running retreat and race, a Northeast race brand, will you say, or company, whatever. And so I believe that this was their first race that they put on. And so I was checking out, I heard about it from a few people, checked out, they have a website, and they got some, a team over there at Northeast Trail Adventures. And I think they did some running retreats this year. And then this was the first race. I don't see any other races on their website. So I think this was the first race that they're putting on. And we did a preview for this a couple weeks ago. There were some crushers on this ultra sign-up entrance list. And there was a lot of hype behind this race. Like I said, talked to a few people about it. The word was getting out. It was a backyard format. So it was every hour on the hour. The runners had to complete a loop. Instead of doing the typical backyard format of 4.2 miles an hour, so it's 100 miles every 24 hours, this was an Everesting event and more of a vertical backyard. So what does that mean? Every hour, the contestants, the entrants ran 1,200 vertical feet. I think it was 2.2 miles, which if you do that for 24 straight hours, you have 29,000 feet of climbing, so the equivalent of an Everest. So it was a single-day Everest, and it was a backyard ultra, so there's no finish line. You just go until there's one person left. And so there were lots of crushers in this list. in the ultra sign up list, and people got excited about this. There was lots of training that occurred on Mount Ascutney, and people were going all out for this event. My prediction for this event, I think I said in the podcast last week or 2 weeks ago, I thought it'd go maybe 38 hours. I think that was my final. The winner was going to go 38 hours. The race directors came out and said they thought that this race would be over by 40 hours. They thought maybe somewhere in the 30s. Talking to Clark Plummer, he goes, his guess was, I think it was 35 or 36 hours. So a day and a half straight, 30 to 40,000 feet of climbing, like that should win you a vertical backyard ultra, right? Wrong. We were all dead wrong. So the winner, like I said earlier, Connor Brown, with the assist by Bill Tidd, they ended up, so Connor did 90 hours, 90 laps up and down Mount Ascutney. The total, I think it was 202 or 212. I haven't pulled up here, but over 200 miles, 100,000 feet of ascent and descent. That's the craziest part. That's kind of what I just kept saying to myself. They just did 100,000 feet of climbing and descent. Some ultra runners don't even get that much gain in a year. If you do more flatter races, you don't get in the mountains a lot. 100,000 feet is a lot of climbing. And they did that straight for 90 hours. And some other people put up some crazy times too, so we'll go through the whole results list. But when I first heard that, I was thinking, my first thought process was, oh man, they're still going. So I was kind of tracking the race, and on Monday, I think that was the start of day 3, and Connor and Bill were still going. I'm thinking, oh my God, what is going on? And I'm thinking, did they make this course too easy? And then I'm thinking, no, you're Everesting in 24 hours. That is a very hard feat. A lot of people try to Everest like that on skis, or you hike up and take the gondola down. These guys did it on foot, hiking/running up and down. And 100,000 feet up is insanity, but 100,000 feet descent is just a massacre on the leg muscles. Eccentric contractions destroy your leg muscles, your quads, they burn out. It is just unbelievable to think about that they descended 100,000 feet. To put that into perspective, I think lots of the 200-mile races out there, Tahoe 200, Moab, Cocodona, they all have about 200, they're all 2 to 250 miles with like 40 to 50,000 feet of climbing. So they did a 200-miler with double the climbing of all of these ridiculous races. Just bonkers. And as this event progressed, like I said, nobody expected this race to go this long. So we'll pull up the results here and talk about how did this possibly happen, right? How did this happen? And we'll talk about Connor and Bill a little bit more. But so this race, like I said, if you go 24 hours, you're an Everest finisher. And there were a bunch of people that Everest. I think that, okay, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4. And then, okay, hold on. We're going to do some counting here. Bear with me, folks. So we had 4 on the first sheet, and then the last sheet. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Okay. So that's 20. So I think 20 people didn't Everest, which is absolutely insane. We'll go through all the names at the end, but 20 people didn't Everest at this event, which is a ton of vert. Congrats to everybody. Congrats to anyone who did bib vert. Yeah, there were 7 people that just did the 24 hours. They did an Everest. Boom. From there, 3 people, and we'll just go through. We'll read those names quick, honestly. So the Everest finishers, Noah Genis, sorry, holy crap. Noah Genis, Lyle Cortez, Andrew Soares, they did an Everest in 24 hours. And then Leela Godralt, Brian SV, Will Peterson, Rob Rives all did Everest, and they bailed at 24 hours. So those were people that were probably just in it for 24 hours, and they said, all right, that's good enough for me. The next, there were 3 more people who did an extra lap. So Peter Gurney, William Wren, Kevin Lasco, they did an extra lap. 2 more people did another one. Cal Hale, Jesse Irzerman. I'm horrible at pronouncing just words in general, so I'm sorry if I'm butchering any of this. Then somebody else did 2 more laps, Tom Dumakis. Then we got Peter Benito. He did 36,000 feet of climbing. And then we had 2 people, Lance Parker and Tori Constantine. They did 44,000 feet of climbing. And at that point, 4 people are left. So this is 37 hours in. So I think at this point in the race, everybody kind of was thinking it would be close to over. But no, you got 4 crushers who are still in this race. So at the 37-hour mark, you had 4 people left. It was Seth Richardson, Amber Constant, Bill Tidd, and Connor Brown. Seth ended up doing 50 hours, 60,000 feet of climbing. Amber ended up doing 64 hours, 77,000 feet of climbing. So substantially more than those people in the 30-hour range. And Northeast Trail Adventures did a little write-up, and they said, first of all, Seth Richardson, I don't think he's ever done a 100-mile race. That's what I think it said in the post. He ended up doing 60,000 feet of climbing. That's definitely over 100 miles. That may be like 120, 130 miles, which is just an insane 100-miler to do for your first one. So he comes out of nowhere and just absolute slugfest. And then Amber Constant, who she's had a crazy year doing some long distance stuff. She started the year doing the New Hampshire section of the AT, getting the overall FKT on that, men's and women's overall FKT. I think that was over 3 days. So the hardest section of the AT, through the White Mountains, includes the Whites 100, adds on 10 or 20 miles towards the Maine border, and then adds on the Dartmouth 50. She does that earlier in the year. Putting up big, I think she trained big volume before that effort, just doing a lot of hiking and crazy mileage. Then I think a few months later, she comes back and does the White Mountains 100 yo-yo, which is 200 miles. I think it's a little bit 30 or 40 miles longer than the AT effort, with more climbing, I'm sure, which is just insanity. I mean, a lot of people just don't even want to do that route because it's too hard, and doing a yo-yo is just, I don't know if I definitely don't want to do it, but just crazy mileage. And then she comes to Ascutney and does 77,000 feet of vert. So just a crusher, pushing the envelope, goes for 64 straight hours, so almost 3 straight days. So at 64 hours, Amber drops out. Connor Brown and Bill Tidd are left standing. And I'm sure Justin and Eli, the race directors, are thinking, oh my God, we thought we'd be out of here a day ago. We thought we would be wrapped up with this event 1 day ago. This is bleeding into the work week. They commented, yeah, they're taking vacation time. They're not expecting to be out here. And for the next 26 hours, Connor and Bill just go at it lap for lap. Just insane. 26 straight hours of going heads up against each other, doing these laps until finally, I think the story is they were both still going strong, but I think Bill got a little lost on one of the loops. It was foggy. His brain was obviously scrambled eggs at this point. You know, when you start going so long, your brain just kind of starts tricking you. You start thinking weird things. I don't know if he was doing any hallucinations, but he got spun around. I guess he was 3 minutes from the finish line and convinced himself he was on the wrong trail. So he turned around and went back up and ended up missing the cutoff. So that is just, honestly, that's heartbreaking. And I think it kind of stinks that it came to that this race came to an end like this. Like that just being more of a mental mistake as opposed to physically or just emotionally giving out. But that's all part of it. That is a huge part of these long distance ultras, like your brain staying with it. And so it happens. And so I don't think anyone was like pumped that was the way it ended, but that's the way it ended. Bill Tidd with the assist, and then Connor Brown goes out for his final lap or the lap that Bill Tidd DNF'd, came in late, and Connor is the winner with 108,000 feet of climbing. And yeah, I mean, it's kind of like the 5 or so years ago when the Chiefs and Bills had that crazy playoff game, and then the Chiefs get the coin toss, they win it on a touchdown, the Bills don't get a second chance. It's kind of something like that, or last year. These are just football references. It's football season right now. When the Ravens were storming back in the playoffs, awesome game, and then Mark Andrews just dropped a touchdown. It's a little bit heartbreaking because these two athletes, what would they have done if Bill didn't get turned around? What were their bodies capable of? Like, would they have got 100 hours? We don't know. But like I said, missed turns, mental game, that's all part of this ultra. This is all part of it. So I don't think, somebody got unlucky. I think that's just part of it, how it goes. And Connor was a little mentally more locked into the trail at the end of it. So that's how it turned out. And as this was unfolding, like I said, people are at work. This is Monday. I go into work. I'm like, oh my God, these guys are still going right now. I'm getting honestly a little bit nervous because when you think of going for 3.5, almost 4 days, my background is more of the shorter distance ultras. I haven't done any multi-day ultras. And so I think the thru hikers, the multi-day ultra scene, the long trail, the White Mountains 100, the White Mountains Direttissima, supported 4K, Appalachian Trail, Tour de Jance, all of these multi-day efforts. I don't have any experience racing them, but it seems like what happens is after you go a couple days, your body has either given out, you have some sort of nagging injury, or you don't, and it really turns to a mind game. And who has more willpower and who's just gonna keep going. Like I said, 100,000 feet to the quads is just insane. But it feels like there's a bell curve to these events where the first day and a half, and when you get into 2 days, you're probably peaking at, if you have an injury, you had something bugging you, or your muscles are kind of sore and giving out, they're just going to give out. But once you get for a couple days, I think your body starts to adjust and says, this is just what we're doing. We're going on minimal sleep. We tried to get this guy to stop, but the brain's saying this. We try to get this guy to stop. He won't stop. So we just go into survival mode, and it just becomes a test of who wants it more. So the Backyard World Champs earlier this year, which I kind of talked about, they went for 4.5 straight days of running 4.2 miles every hour, sleeping a couple minutes, and then going again. So 4.5 straight days on minimal sleep. And I think if you want it bad enough, your body just adjusts and it will go. It's like your body's your mind is the general, your body's the soldier. Who is just going to tell them we are just going? I don't care how it feels. That's kind of what it felt like. And on Monday, when I'm watching this event, I'm thinking, I don't know if neither of them are going to quit, right? Something has to happen where somebody misses a cutoff because they are not quitting. This is just crazy. And that's kind of what ended up happening. And I think Will Peterson said on a Single Track podcast once about the multi-day efforts and those FKTs and stuff. And I think he was saying that the gap between professional, 200 milers, multi-dayers, and amateurs, or just people that aren't really getting paid to run full time, is not as big as you would think. And I agree with that statement, because really, most pro runners, pro ultra runners, they are training their body to be as physically fit as possible, as strong as possible, as fast as possible. These people are freaks, genetic freaks, and they that's what they get to do. They just train and be really fast. Professional runners, all that. But this backyard ultra format, I think after those first couple days, it is more of a mind battle. And And any multi-day effort, it's more of a mind battle. If you're willing to push sleep deprivation and not quit, I think the gap is close to these pros, because pro runners are, their body is what they're training. You know, they're obviously training the mind too, but I don't think a ton of people, you know, people are starting to, but I don't know if a ton of people get paid to have just uncrushable souls. And maybe that is changing now that these races are getting more popular. But I think Connor and Bill have elite pro level uncrushable souls, and they can compete at all of these 200-mile races for you know, with the best people. And I think it just goes to show you what humans are capable of. If you're willing to push it, you can go for a lot longer than you think. Like a lot of these multi-day efforts, I think Will Peterson, again, on his long trail FKT, he talked about, I think he went the same pace as John Kelly. He was just sleeping less. Tara Dower is another one, her FKT effort. I think she was just saying she was just willing to go sleep less and just keep pushing the body. And that's what you're seeing on these efforts. These people are just pushing their body, minimal sleep, and seeing how long they can go for. And you can go a lot longer than you think. And so, based on the kind of commentary from the post and stuff, it sounds like Connor was doing 49-ish minute laps every hour, which gives him a few minutes to kind of get food, get water, a few minutes to catch some sleep, and then get back out. Bill Tidd was doing 52-ish minute laps on average for a lot of it. Again, a few minutes to get food and kind of recoup, maybe get some sleep and keep going. But this is not, they weren't doing 35, 40-minute laps and getting 10 minutes of sleep, 15 minutes of sleep at a time. They were sleeping minutes, if that, mostly not sleeping, and just continuing to go. And it's just mind-blowing what you can do when you just don't quit. And the sleep thing is insane, because a lot of people, when you tell anyone you're doing an ultra, you did 100-miler or whatever, they're like, when do you sleep? Like, how much did you sleep? When do you sleep? And you're always like, oh, I didn't sleep for a day. And they're like, what? How do you do that? These people are not sleeping. They didn't sleep for 4 days. Like, that is insane. And like I said, I would love to, you know, we should have got them on the mic for some of those last few laps. Like, they were probably thinking and saying some crazy stuff. I know I would be. But it's next level. And honestly, I don't know if I would want to push right now. I do not want to push my body that hard. I'm watching this thinking I am not as tough as these guys. I don't know if I want to go that deep, because once you get into that 3 and 4 day territory, your body is just accepting that you are going. I'm thinking rhabdo. I'm thinking like compartment syndrome. I'm thinking, are you doing permanent damage to your body? Like, I don't know. And it's just insane. Like, pushing the human body to the absolute limits. That's what they did. This was just like an incredible event to watch. This is a course record. Will this course record ever be broken? One question that I have, I don't know, because to put on this crazy event, this is why the assist is such a big thing. You need 2 people to do this insane effort. So it's not just one person that just takes the cake, steals the show. It's 2 people that are putting on these insane performances. So are 2 people going to want to go for 200 miles and 100,000 feet of climbing at Ascutney ever again? I don't know. It's going to be a long time. Every record's meant to be broken, but yeah, it's crazy. I would love to get Connor and Bill's opinion if they even want to go back. I'm sure Bill maybe has a little more reason to, like with the assist, try to go back and get a win. But if I'm Connor, I'm thinking, I've left my mark. I don't know if I want to do that again. You know, that effort could go to some other place or whatever. I feel like he beat Ascutney. He beat Mount Ascutney. He doesn't ever have to go back ever again, right? That's how I would feel. But just insanity. So I'm sure those 2 are gonna get on, maybe from the backcountry or run the whites and talk about their time there. But that is insane. One of the questions I had too is, what are those 2? Are they? How much are they communicating? What are they saying to each other for the last 26 hours of that race? Because They're just going head to head for 26 hours. Clearly, they're both very competitive. They both wanted to win, right? And from what I hear, Connor, I haven't met him in person. He's actually a local Uncanunic guy. Quiet, kind of unassuming is what they described him in the write-up. Built-in, super nice, just a sweet guy. I reached out to him once on a training question. He got back to me with a thoughtful response, and it seems like he's just a super nice guy and loves endurance running, loves endurance training. But what are they saying? Are they not talking? Because are they chatting? Are they laughing every are they making a joke every lap? Are they saying a joke every few laps? Are they just not talking at all? Because this backyard format, you're just waiting for the other person to quit, right? So you're just thinking, oh, I hope this guy quits this lap, right? Like, I hope he quits. If he doesn't quit, I'm not going to quit. And so it was a funny dynamic. I'm sure those two are going to have a connection that nobody else will be able to understand being out there for so long. But yeah, just absolute insanity. Connor Brown is I don't know if he's 24 or 25, but just a young crusher. He's done Bubba's a few times and put up, I think, 100-mile efforts there a few times. He had a really good time with the Jigger Johnson 50. I think he won the Manchester to Monadnock race. He's got the 24-hour record on Uncanunic North and Uncanunic South. So I think he's an AT through hiker. So he's young. He's got a crazy resume that he's building, and he's definitely one of the strong young ultra runners that's just going to be tearing up these trails for the next who knows how many years. And then Bill Tidd is 63 years old doing this. That is just absolutely mind-boggling. I was thinking about this. There was a funny Instagram account that got created that was Bill Tidd is the GOAT, like fan Instagram account, which I followed, and I was thinking, I think Bill Tidd may be age group 60 to 69. I think that's usually how they split it up on ultra sign up. He may be the strongest age in his age group ultra runner in the world. And I don't know if that's a crazy statement. I think that is an actual hypothetical that may be true. He has the 48 supported, the 4K, 48 4K 4,000 footer supported FKT, which is a strong time. I think Will Peterson had that. Lots of people have gone after that time. He has that overall FKT, which is a no-joke multi-day FKT. He goes to Tour de France. I think he ran that a couple months ago. Finishes top 60 or top 50. I don't know if he must have been podium age group. He maybe have won his age group there. Just absolutely incredible that he's doing these ultras. You look at his ultra sign-up list. He hasn't been doing this for 40 years. I think his earliest, and I may be wrong here, but he's been doing this for a decade or 2 decades or whatever. But the fact that he is 63 and just putting a beat down on all these cats out here is insane. I think Bill Tidd is that person where you show up to a start line of an ultra marathon. If you're young, you're getting into ultras. I'm fast, I'm fit. I put in this crazy training. Like, I got all this lightweight gear. I got carbon plated shoes. Like, I'm gonna rip. I'm about to go for this race. Bill Tidd shows up at the start line with a 20-year-old pack, like the original, Solomon trail pack version 1.0, and drinking a coffee with like a Snickers bar, and you just are like, oh, I'm screwed. This guy is gonna destroy me out here. He is the elite ultra runner. That's just insane what he's still doing. And I was wondering too, I don't know, I wonder, because I think they posted too. I'm not just calling out his age. I think they posted it too. He's 63. I'm sure he knows that. But I wonder if he's like, these people just keep calling me old. Like, I can throw down with these young guys. So he is just incredible. And like I said, he goes to Tour de France, which is one of the most competitive 200-mile races. I think that's close to 670 or 80,000 feet of climbing, and he puts up a crazy good time there. Just really impressive, these two. And what I was thinking, so like I said, Bilte did Tour de France earlier this year. That was maybe 2 months. I think that was early September. So 2 months before this effort, he does a 200-mile race. Connor Brown did the Backyard Ultra this year, the Bubba's Backyard Ultra, which was like a month and a half before this race, which is obviously, I think he went 150 miles. And I think for these multi-day efforts, you have to be putting up big volume in training. I think a lot of the 100-mile stuff, some of the shorter ultras is getting really fast, really much about big carbs, running fast, speed work, the David Roach's Western States is a track meet. I think for these 200-mile efforts, you need to just log the miles. I think Will Peterson's famous before his big efforts. He just goes and puts up like a couple 200-mile weeks or does some through hike and does crazy volume before his efforts. And he's obviously had a lot of success there. But yeah, I think you really just have to grind miles because you're not really optimizing for power and strength. You're optimizing your body to go forever. And so I think big training equates to big volume at these events. And clearly, whatever Connor and Bill did to prep for this race, they got it. And they got the most out of each other, and really just super impressive performance by them. I don't know on the scale of backyard, was this the craziest vertical backyard ultra that's ever been had? Where does this stack up to different 200-mile race times, 200-mile multi-day efforts? I don't know, but it was surely jaw-dropping. Every time I say 100,000 feet of climbing and descent, I just start laughing because I don't know. I just start laughing because it is just so preposterous to think that they were out there for 90 straight hours. So that was the Ascutney Vertical Backyard recap. Just an insane event, and I'm excited to see what Northeast Trail Adventures is going to put on to next, because clearly they got a lot of buzz, they got a lot of hype this time around. So we'll see. Sorry, I'm just checking to make sure that the everything is still working and nothing has died here. But okay, so that was the Ascutney Vertical Backyard Ultra stuff, crazy stuff. I'm excited to hear any podcasts or any stuff come out from Connor and Bill. I'm sure people will get there, or Amber, even Seth. They all had insane efforts out there on what it was like to go out there and just put down these crazy times. And we'll see what happens next year. I mean, again, what is my prediction? Is my prediction gonna change for next year? Maybe I guess somewhere in like the 40s or 50s thousands, but I don't know. I'm sure I could see Amber going back and wanting to just win it all. I mean, 77,000 feet of climbing should win that event. I could see Bill maybe going back and doing kind of Ed Clifford again. Connor Brown could go back and be the Ed Clifford of this event and just beat everybody for 3 or 4 years until he's tired of this event. I think Lucas J would be a good one. He did 3 days on the skiing vertical backyard, the last skier standing, and then he won Bubba's this year. So he would be a good person to go out there. If him and Connor went out next year, Bill comes back, yeah, so we'll see. And we'll see. I don't know if there's what other trail races that Northeast Trail Adventures are going to put on, but we'll see. They clearly got a knack for putting on events that people like, so we'll see what that comes out to. But all right, that was the backyard stuff. So next up, we have the JFK recap. We'll just do a quicker recap here. The winner of the JFK, Hans Troyer, comes in first. He runs the second fastest time on the course ever. He runs 5:10, only behind David Sinclair's 5:08 the year before. David Sinclair comes in second. I think he said from the start of this race, everything felt harder than last year. I think Hayden Hawks, I don't know if he came in third. He was also at the front of the pack too. That the men's race is just getting so fast. So the fastest time on that course is last year, 5:08, David Sinclair. Hans Schroer comes back, puts up the second fastest time. That is a 6:06 pace for 50 miles. That is just so crazy. There's a little bit of trail section at the front of the race, and then it's mostly roads. And I think he was just running 5:30s for, miles on end, just casually. That is insane. That's crazy. I mean, Hans Schroer he's actually another young ultra running star. I think he has a huge following already, very popular pro runner. He had, just a crazy day out there. And there was a little video I saw. So David Sinclair, so last year at the race, halfway through the race or at the beginning of the race, after you get off the trails and it's more flatter road stuff, he switched into like an Alpha Fly or some sort of faster road shrew. And so we did the same strategy this year. At that, when he switched those shoes, Hans passes them and then just sends for home and never looks back. So that was kind of like, there was just a clip there that was cool that was having tracked, and Hans just runs right through it. So that was crazy. And then on the women's side, Jade Belsberg from Canada, she runs the fourth fastest time of all time on the women's time. She runs a 6:07, and she wins on the women's field. And like I said, these races are just getting so fast. And I think, although it's a completely different race than the Ascutney race, I think when somebody sets the bar on anything, this is why every record is meant to be broken. When somebody sets the bar on any course or course record or whatever, then it's showing what's possible, and then somebody else is like, oh, I'm just going to push a little bit harder and try to push that limits and try to go a little bit faster. I think there is something to, every record is meant to be broken, but when you have a performance like Connor and Bill, I think so many more people are going to go so much further at Ascutney now just because they showed what is possible. It's like, I'm pretty sure there was experiment with mice where if you put a mice in some sort of crazy maze or crazy puzzle on one side of the world and they finish it, like there's a thing that no mice has ever finished, and they finish it across the world, it becomes easier for the mice across the world to finish that same puzzle, that same maze. And so there's something about doing the impossible makes it more possible for everyone else. I think it's, the 4-minute mile, people thought there was impossible forever, and now people run way faster than 4-minute miles. I think it's a 2-hour marathon. They thought nobody would break the 2-hour marathon. They're a little bit of an asterisk, but eventually it was broken. I think it's getting closer to being broken. I think it's just pushing the limits on these events. You can go, there is so much more in you than you think. And we need people to push the limits like Bill and Connor, Hans, David. We need all these people to push the limits, go as hard as you can, and really just show what's possible for these events. So ultra running is getting super excited. It's getting super competitive. And if you want to compete, you got to be willing to hurt for it. That's what I gather from the ultra scene this year. But all right, so those are the race recaps that I wanted to talk about. Now we're going to dive into some training topics. So I like I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, I got my ultra running coach certification, working on eventually offering some coaching services. So if anyone has any interest, stay tuned for that. There's going to be more updates in the next couple months here. But I learned a lot, and I think ultra running, it's a cool sport because there are so many variables that go into it. We just talked about a race where you basically low intensity hike for 90 straight hours, and then on the other side of the race, on trails, on vertical, and then the other side of the race, you have a road race, 50 mile, that people are running 6-minute miles the whole time. And it's the same sport. So, and there's so many different things you can do. You can do races, you can do FKTs, you can do lists, you can do through hikes, you can do Strava segments, you can do short races, you can do long races, technical, road, flat. There's so many different possibilities. And what works for different people works for different people. There's no set training program for ultra running. No one size fits all. And if you go to a 5K, if you're doing a 5K and you're following a 5K plan, if you're training for a marathon, it's very much numbers. They're getting very good at how to train for those races. But with ultras, you have so many different variables and factors to consider. One is just how fast, VO2 max, power, how fast you are, as an athlete. Then you have how much training volume you've done to prepare. Are you overtrained? Are you undertrained? How are you absorbing training? Then it's, are you running flat? Are you running vertical? Are you running technical? Because running on technical terrain has a different skill involved than running on a road race. There's less running economy, and it's more, you got to be an athlete. You got to be in the mountains. Climbing and descending. How can you? There's lots of marathoners that would go out and do 10,000 vertical feet of descent, and their quads would be trashed, absolutely trashed, if they didn't train for it. So you gotta have strong legs. Then it's nutrition. How are you fueling? What can you eat? Are you drinking enough? That's one thing about the Ascutney. 90 straight hours of eating and drinking. I'm sure their mouths were torched. The longest thing I've done is 39 hours. My mouth, your palate is just raw. It's like, it's not chafed, but it's so raw from just eating and chewing so much food. Like, that's something you got to think about. Your stomach digesting the food. Have you trained with food? What works for you? Sleep. Can you go on minimal sleep? How do you sleep train and not crush your training volume? Running in the dark. Grit, motivation. How do you train being able to run for 90 straight hours? There's all of these factors which allows a larger population of people to be very, very good at the sport if they pick their right kind of niche of races. So you don't have to be a genetic freak to run and be really successful in ultra running. You also don't have to be the toughest guy on planet Earth. If you are super fast, you like running fast 50Ks and you get really good at that, you can, go on and do all that stuff. So there's lots of different areas for success, and that just means there's lots of different areas for training. And over the last 4 or 5 years, I've really determined maybe 3, 4 years, determined what works for me in training. I've tried a lot of different training approaches. I've talked to different people. How do they train? Online, there's lots of people talking about different training styles. There's so many resources out there, and it's really kind of a puzzle that you got to put together, and every person has to put this puzzle together. And yeah, so I think I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot about endurance training, how to move fast in the mountains, and eventually I want to kind of get into the coaching a little bit. But so for the certification, I don't know, like, if you really, I think certifications really help. It kind of helps legitimacy and stuff. I don't know it's super necessary for some of these if you're an ultra running coach, but I really wanted to get kind of the basics, make sure I had the basics down and see how other people think about these things. And I thought there was a few points that really kind of hit home with me that maybe I hadn't heard, or maybe I've just realized it through my training and somebody just put it down in words. And I was like, oh, I figured that out, through my training. Now here's like the science kind of behind it. So it was a really cool course. I'm excited to get into it more, get into training more. And I'm going to start putting out more information on my website and on the podcast and stuff about training. So stay tuned for all this stuff if you're really trying to just become a better, faster, stronger ultra runner. So a few of the topics I want to talk about today, we'll just go through these kind of quickly. No pain, no gain. Everybody talks about no pain, no gain. And I think for a lot of runners, when they're getting into running at any level, beginner or, maybe you've been training and you're, you ran in high school, ran in college, but now you're doing ultras. I think, any runner, you kind of get into it like, oh, I got to go out and run hard all the time, or I got to go out and stack a ton of miles and volume and just absolutely crush myself. And I really don't think that is the case for a lot of people. And So no pain, no gain. I think that is a myth when it comes to ultra running. So this is one of the things they touched on, and I just want to read a little bit of a quote here. So it is widely accepted that muscles are damaged during intense exercise bouts and then rebuilt. So when you're strength training, when you're running hard, it hurts. You break down your muscles, you recover, you give them nutrients, you refuel, you sleep good, you come back the next day, and they grow back stronger, ideally. And yeah, and during the recovery phase, you get strength gains. However, detectable damage, which would be plasma levels, pain, muscle soreness, some of these biomarkers, is not required for strength gains. And I think that is a key thing to think about when you are trying to increase your volume, but also you're trying to get faster and stronger. Because if you're not absorbing the training, then you're not going to get stronger. And so when they're looking at strength gains don't come from just being sore. This is a good in weightlifting. Weight trainers, if you're a bodybuilder and you're just trying to put on as much muscle and mass as you can, they do lots of low weights, high reps, and they try to destroy their muscles. They want to get as sore as possible so they can have that muscle grow back bigger. Strength gains don't work the same way. Obviously, if your muscle is getting bigger, you are going to get some strength gains there. But when people are doing strength training, so if you are in some sort of Olympic strength training program and you're doing powerlifting, deadlift, bench, squats, a lot of the times they're doing lower reps. So you hear like 5x5 for strength. That is lower reps, more repetition at that higher strength level, like that output. And so if you can do, they say, if you can do 10 squats at a certain weight and you're bodybuilding, you do 10 squats, you're absolutely destroyed. The next set you can do 6, the next set you can do like 4, and then you're cooked. That's probably ideal for like a bodybuilder. But if you can do 5 reps and you get to 5, you could do 10 on that first set, but you stop. Your muscles don't get super sore, you get more reps at that weight, and then you can do it 4 more times. Then you do 25 reps at the same weight where you would have done 20 at the previous style of training. And so when it comes to strength gains, strength is actually a skill, and you want to get as many repetitions as you can to get better at that skill. Hill strides. This is why I think hill strides work so good. 6 to 8 reps of hill strides 3 times a week is going to get you more strength gains than if you did one hard workout with the same amount of working time as all of those hill strides together. You need to get as many quality runs in as you can and as many quality reps in as you can over time instead of just destroying your muscles every time. Now, I'm not saying that you shouldn't do hard workouts. I do a workout probably once a week that really kind of cooks me. But the rest of the week, I try to do more of that, put some strides in, put some nice intensity during a long run, but nothing that'll kill me. And over time, if you can keep stacking volume and stacking those strength gains and not get hurt by pushing yourself, no pain, no gain, you're just going to progress more week after week, month after month, because that's the goal. Put in quality reps for months and years, and that's how you get better. So that was the no pain, no gain thing that I wanted to touch on. I think it's good. I think a month or two leading into a big ultra, you got to get in that higher volume, pushing your body. But in a build up to an ultra, you're not maximizing your strength and speed all the time, a long distance ultra. So when the build up, it's a little bit different. You do want to kind of push the body a little bit. But if you are not in the immediate build up to an ultra and you're just trying to get stronger faster, don't always go to your breaking point. Save a little bit and do more over time. But okay, those are the training topics today. We got 2 last things here. Thanksgiving food is mid. This is a hot take. I don't know if this is going to get people mad or upset. Hopefully there's some people on my side, but everybody talks about Thanksgiving. I like Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving's a good holiday. You got football, family, it's the fall. It's a good holiday and I like it. But the fact that people just say, oh, the Thanksgiving food, that's what I love about Thanksgiving. The food is just out of this world. I am just not getting on board with turkey. Turkey. I think turkey is probably the most average protein that you can eat. I have never once woke up and been like, oh, I could go for a good turkey breast right now. The turkey is something, if I'm trying to eat clean, I like turkey, put it on a sandwich. If you cook it good, a good like local turkey, maybe the dark meat, it is good and it can be really good. But for me, I'm never craving a turkey. And that's one of my big points. Like, if you're gonna say that food is so good, I want a food that I crave all the time. And like, what kind of protein do I crave? I crave a steak. Give me a T-bone steak. Give me a prime rib. I like doing salmon. We're gonna do salmon tomorrow. I think salmon just hits so good. I don't know if you like salmon, but salmon, a good salmon when it hits good is just off the charts. But I want something that I get excited for, right? The other thing too is like, even I think a pepperoni pizza. That's something where I'm eating it. I look forward to, oh, this is a treat. A nice hamburger, cooked medium rare from a good restaurant. Something like that. Those are all things that I crave and look forward to. I'm never craving turkey. And so if for my Thanksgiving, I want steak, I want salmon, I want burgers, I want pizza, I want bacon, I want all these things that people crave. Now, a lot of people rebuttal and say, well, it's not really the turkey. We kind of agree. Turkey's not a great, isn't like, doesn't knock your shoes off. Stuffing, mashed potatoes, cranberry sauce. Stuffing is really good. I'll give you that. Stuffing is really good. But outside of Thanksgiving, when are you making stuffing? Are people making stuffing all the time? Because I don't really think people are making stuffing that good. Like, if Thanksgiving food was that good, you would eat it more than once a year. Why do we only eat this stuff once a year? Now, obviously, mashed potatoes, I feel like, is something that people eat more. This is probably where I'm definitely on the minority, where mashed potatoes don't really do it. Like, they are good. They can be really good, but they don't always do it for me. It's just kind of like a meh food for me. Cranberry sauce doesn't do it for me. Gravy. I mean, gravy is good, but I don't think it's like over the top good. And so my ideal Thanksgiving, I'm holding off on most of the Thanksgiving food, and I want all the stuff discussed earlier. That may be controversial. That may put people out this podcast, but I had to get that take out there. Thanksgiving is great. I like Thanksgiving. The best food of the year on Thanksgiving, and I'm not getting behind that. I think Thanksgiving food is average, and Thanksgiving leftovers, I don't think people really love Thanksgiving leftovers. I'll take, I will take leftovers because it's always good to get some leftover food when there's a ton, but nah, I don't know. I don't know about Thanksgiving food like that. So, hey, that's what I think. If you disagree, let me know. Go at me. But that's what I have on the Thanksgiving food. I said I was going to do a trail report, so Mount Moosilauke. Went to Mount Moosilauke today. The gate is closed, as always, in the winter, so you have an extra mile up to Mount Moosilauke. When I got there was probably 20 cars there, so it's pretty popular on a Saturday, and it hasn't snowed here in a few days, so I had my tiny little micro spikes, and I just wore my studded trail runners. The trail up to about 3,000 feet was pretty icy. I didn't put on my micro spikes, but I think, those little spikes probably would have helped. I just had my studded trail runners, and I was all good. But definitely rocky. Don't slip. You always, when you're running in those, if you're running in just trail runners, the spikes on you, the studs, just remember that ice is very slick. Every year, I get reminded, ice is slippery. It's like you always forget during the summer, like, oh, ice is always, will never not be slippery. I've known that my whole life. How am I still slipping on ice? I'm still slipping on ice sometimes. I guess I just haven't learned. So the first mile, mile or two, a little bit icy, a little bony. I would throw spikes on, but you can get by with the studded trail runners. At like 3,000 to 3,500 feet, it really got snowed in, and the trail was pretty much just packed snow all the way. There were a ton of people up there, so the rest of the way was very smooth. It was cold today, but it was more windy. Like, it's 20s. I think the wind chill was in the negative tens, though, negative teens. When it was blowing, it was very cold up there, so I had a couple layers with me. And once you get up to tree line, it was super cold. There was a little bit of drifty, soft snow like above tree line, but ultimately, I never put on spikes. I was fine with just the studs all day and the trail shoes. And the trails I would overall be like good trail conditions. Icy down low, a little bit choppy up top. It was cold. It was cold over at the top of Moosilauke as always. There's been a few times I always yeah, you're getting screwed by the wind up there. It was cold up at Moosilauke. It's always pretty windy up there, but good day, fast trails, and yeah, the winter season looks like we're getting snow a couple times next week, so these trails should keep filling in quite nicely. That was the trail report for Moosilauke. All right, last topic of the day, the deer season wrap up. I talked about this on, I think, a couple episodes, talked about my deer hunting. And I think I did say I was going to do weekly updates, and I just stopped doing them. I don't know if anyone's actually interested in that stuff on here. So sometimes if there's other topics to talk about, we're already at an hour, so I don't want to go crazy into depth on that. But yeah, I don't know if anyone's interested. So I kind of was like, eh. And then I just really didn't have too many updates because I have been struggling this deer season. This has been for sure the toughest deer season I've had maybe in my whole life. This has just been, it's been brutal for me. So I really didn't have any good updates. Maybe partially I was like, I don't even want to talk about it. And I don't even know if you guys like it. So that's why we took out some of the deer season updates, but we got one to wrap up the beginning of the year. I'm pretty much done for the season. We actually got snow coming in, so I think I might go tracking 1 or 2 days next week, which I have not done before. Come up into the mountains and see if I can find some deer tracks and follow them and see where they go. I don't know if I will have much luck, but that was one of the goals. I wanted to try to get on a nice buck track up in the mountains and see that these deer even live out here, exist out here. So that will be cool. I'm looking forward to that next week. But besides that, I haven't been out in like maybe a week and a half. And so, yeah, the deer season. The last update that I have given on here, I got one deer with the bow earlier in the year in October. I was hunting a lot in September and October. I was seeing deer in September, but then October I didn't see stuff for a long time. I was getting out a lot, putting the time in, and I just was not getting on deer. And November came around, opening weekend of muzzleloader. I missed a doe around me, which kind of stung a little bit. And then from there, I just didn't have much action, and I was just running into so many hunters. I hunt a lot in southern New Hampshire, and every piece of woods that you can hunt that isn't near like a bunch of running trails, there's just so many guys that get out. In the zone that I hunt in they give out a couple extra tags. They've been doing that for like a lot of years now, and I really just think a lot of people go out there. A ton of people hunt. They got a bunch of tags, and there's just, I don't want to say there's not as many deer as there used to be, but it's definitely getting harder and harder to hunt in southern New Hampshire. There's lots of deer around. I think this is the most deer we've ever had. It's just with all the development, they're getting pushed into little neighborhoody chunks of woods where you really shouldn't be hunting. Private land, there's so much posted land around me, and it's just kind of, it sucks the fun out of hunting where every time you go on public land, you're running into other people, and there's not a lot of deer sign. There was one spot that I found some deer last year that I hunted a lot this year, and because of the drought, no acorns, there's just not as many deer this year in there. And so yeah, just a tough year all around. So pretty much I kind of burnt myself out a little bit the first couple months. I always prioritize running and training, and that's always the main thing, but it does hard. Like going out and sitting there for 2 or 3 hours, 4 or 5 times a week definitely gets to you. And I was hunting pretty hard for a long time. And then yeah, November when the rut started kicking on, there were so many people hunting around here. I ended up going up to Maine. So we have a little camp up in central Maine that I like to go to. And I went there. I took off 4 days actually, which is the most time I've ever taken off of work ever. And I was kind of excited to just get up there into the bigger, it's super rural. There's just farms and big woods up there. Went up there, and it's kind of like the same thing to a lesser extent as down in southern New Hampshire. All the, it's all private land. It's all posted. There's like 3 properties that you can, or pieces of woods that we have permission, and it's not posted and other people hunt. And it's kind of like public land up there, even though it's not owned by the state or a town. The landowners allow anybody to hunt up there, and they are pro hunting. And it's the same thing. These areas get hunted a lot. They're everywhere you go. That's a good spot. There's other people's stands and cameras. I went into one spot and there's 6 cell cams on this one. I found the one pocket of good sign in this whole big chunk, and there's just blinds and stands and cameras everywhere, and it's a little bit discouraging. It's a little bit discouraging. And so I spent like maybe a day and a half putting on a lot of miles, sitting the first and last hour or two, found some good sign, and ended up just sitting for a couple days and not seeing anything. Like I bumped into a bunch of deer, but I would see little flashes of deer here and there, but I just never had any good action. And I when I got up to Maine, I was starting to feel sick, and I pretty much got sick when I got up there. So I got sick for the whole week. I ended up hunting for, dark to dark for 3.5, 4 days. And I pretty much called it and was like, I'm getting sicker. I need to get healthy. This deer season kind of broke me a little bit. I only have 1 deer to show for it. And so, yeah, I would say it was pretty disappointing. And I do think that I feel like every fall I'm at a crossroads of, should I be prioritizing running more? Should I be, because hunting in the cold weather, just sitting there in the cold, it takes a ton of energy out of you. And so it's always kind of like a push and pull balance that I try to find. And I think running is the main thing. I love getting out on the trails, and that's always going to be the priority. And hunting, I like doing it. The meat is awesome. That's like the main reason I go out. Luckily, my dad got a bunch of deer this year, so we have venison, which is awesome. Very thankful for that. So there's a little less pressure on me to get it done, but yeah, it's just kind of you can put all the time and effort into hunting as you want. You got to have a little bit of luck at the end of the day. I watch a lot of people on YouTube and listen to a lot of hunting things as well, and some of those guys just have bad years, and because it around here there's just lower deer densities, bigger woods. There's lots of hunters. Well, it depends on where you go. Lots of hunters in the smaller woods and down south. Less hunters up north, but it's harder to find deer. So yeah, I really think I went a little bit too hard deer hunting this year, and in the coming years I'm going to be more efficient with my time. Prioritize running a little bit more. Not that I don't. I'm still in really good shape right now, feeling pretty good. But yeah, I think being more efficient. So my takeaways for the season, if anyone's watching this and wants these takeaways, what I would suggest for anybody trying to get on deer, if you have a limited amount of time, hunt September. The first week is really good. The second week is pretty good. Evenings. Mornings can be good too, but it's more predictable in the evenings. October, I would just, if you want to get out, spend more time walking, scouting, try to get on good sign, and just hunt those cold front days, hunt the cold days when the deer are going to be moving. Find like a good active scrape and a good pinch location or an edge, and hunt that on the cold fronts and just do more scouting. And then really save your time for November when the rut kicks in, to really expend all your energy during the rut, like early to mid-November. And what I'm going to do in the future is probably I'm going to start migrating north more, just like my running, just like how I feel, my life. I'm just going to migrate more and go into these bigger woods. where there's just less hunters and lots of places to roam, and you don't have to worry about running into other people and all that stuff. And I don't know, put less pressure on getting a bunch of deer and more just kind of enjoying getting out. So that's where I'm at with the hunting. That's kind of the plan for the coming years. This is probably the last hunting update that I'll have until next fall. So if you didn't like these sections, I'm sure you tuned out and you won't get these anymore. But that's the update. Although I am tracking for the first time next week. So there's a few inches of snow. I'm going to try to get at least on a track. We'll see how it goes. It'll be more kind of an adventure, and maybe I will if anything eventful happens, maybe I'll talk about it next week, but I don't know. I don't know if it will. But yeah, we'll see. So that was this week's episode of Run Mountain Peaks. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you didn't tune in to the Ascutney Vertical, go look at all the stuff that they posted about it. Go look at Strava and see some insane Strava files. It was just a crazy event. And like I said, just minds blown at that event. Congrats to Bill and Connor. It's just insane what happened there. I think everyone is still in shock, and I'm quite in shock. 100,000 feet of climbing. That's craziness. We all got more in us. I'm definitely inspired. I've definitely been, this week, been at the gym, been on my runs, working a little bit harder. Inspiring stuff. Hopefully you guys are getting after it. Winter conditions in the whites. It's about to get really good for trail running in the whites here. So hopefully you're getting out, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Peace.